But retreats can be challenging. And the very first retreat I ever went on was with Ram Dass, who many of you will know as Richard Alpert. He was famous for getting kicked out of Harvard for the psychedelic research, and Tim Leary went on to jail and other places. Richard Alpert went off to India and found a guru and came back as Ram Dass and became one of the great meditation teachers of our time. And my first retreat was with Ram Dass. I went like 2 days after I finished my psychiatry training. I went to my first meditation retreat. And on the last day of the retreat, we're doing yoga. And there are 100 people doing yoga. In the middle of the room, this guy suddenly begins to cry, and then to weep, and then to wail, and then to yell, and then to scream at the top of his voice. And the person who's leading the yoga session says, "How wonderful, a breakthrough. Sometimes we wait lifetimes for this." I've just finished my psychiatry training. I'm used to shooting people like this up with antipsychotics. I think one of us is crazy here. But what do I know? This is my first meditation retreat. And there are 100 people this retreat standing around this guy who's wailing and screaming and thrashing and flailing, going, "Om." I'm in the background going, "I don't know." But finally they figure out, well, actually maybe this isn't a breakthrough. Maybe it's a breakdown. So go and get Ram Dass, and I think, far out. I'll get to see how Ram Dass works with someone who's having a psychotic break. He'll probably come in and go into an altered state and match this guy, and then tune to him and talk him out of it. So I pushed my way to the front of the room, and Ram Dass came running in and leant over the guy, and the guy bit Ram Dass's stomach and wouldn't let go. And Ram Dass said, "He needs to be tranquilized." So I shot him up with tranquilizers, and Ram Dass and I became friends. So it was not how I was expecting it to go, but you always learn new things. And I was inspired enough eventually to go on more retreats. And eventually, after I got tenure, a couple of days later, I requested a leave of absence and headed off to Burma. And to my great surprise, within 48 hours of arriving in Burma, I found myself on Burmese television. Now, I can think of a number of reasons why I would appear on Burmese television. Perhaps my extensive knowledge of different contemplative practices, or my wide, deep knowledge of the world's religions and cultures, or my profound humility, or which I hope to be world famous one day. But eventually it dawned on me slowly that I was actually there as an example of a heathen who'd seen the light and come to Burma to be saved. Which was true, sort of. So 2 days later, they took us to see the head teacher, Mahasi Sayadaw, who was this great sage who was reputed to be a fully enlightened person, and there are not a lot of those around. So they filed us into this huge hall, and there at the front was Mahasi Sayadaw on the stage sitting in meditation. And in those days I could list off the 10 characteristics of a fully enlightened person in classic Buddhist psychology, so I ran through them, and one of them was that they because their minds are so still, they don't move. They're able to just sit completely still. And I have to say, this guy was really impressive. I mean, he really didn't move a muscle. So I was impressed. And then after a little while, they announced that actually they're going to move us to another room, and so they filed us up by the front of the stage in front of Mahasi Sayadaw, and as I got closer, I realized I'd been admiring a statue. So it was not an auspicious start to this. And it didn't get much better. It was hard, it was hot, it was food was so spicy, my quality control was, could I get the first mouthful down without gagging? It was like, so, but it was what it was. You learn what you can, but it wasn't easy. And eventually, after 6 weeks, I had this profound breakthrough. You know, sometimes you wait a long time for these. For me, it took 6 weeks of difficult practice. But it was just very liberating and freeing, and just an insight which just changed everything for me there. And I still remember I was doing walking meditation outside, walking very slowly and mindfully. And as my foot was in midair, this thought arose: I don't have to stay here. I could go home. So I turned around and started packing. It was very liberating. So then a few months later, I was at a talk by Ram Dass. And if any of you heard Ram Dass, he has this way of making these ordinary things sound incredible and profound. He was talking about his time in Burma. I was talking about having these profound experiences and openings and awakenings and this. And this thought arose: wow, I've got to go to Burma. And next thought was, wait a minute, I was there, it was awful.